Texans are increasingly worried about artificial intelligence and its impact on society.
Democrats don't have a policy plan for dealing with this, and we want to change that today.
This week, we hear some of the ideas from elected leaders to address concerns about AI.
How do we protect our national security and our public safety aspects of the dangers that artificial intelligence poses?
We look at the competing visions and the consensus to respond to the potential risks and rewards of the technology. He's taking over one of the state's most influential financial positions just months before an election and promising change.
This has been a little sleepy agency, and we're going to wake it up a little bit.
Why the governor's appointment of Don Huffines matters and how it could affect Texas taxpayers. Our investigation uncovered delays and poor processes inside the Texas Crime Victims Compensation Fund. Now officials say they've made significant improvements. We examine whether those fixes are working for victims.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Elected leaders in Washington and here in Texas are responding to growing concerns about the societal impact of artificial intelligence. The powerful technology is becoming an issue for many voters. A lot of Texans worry about the effect on jobs and the economy. The Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas polled voters earlier this summer. Nearly half said they believed AI would have a negative effect on the state's economy. Less than a third expected a positive impact. This week, we want to look at how some Texas leaders are responding to concerns from voters. We start in Washington, where a Texas congressman is leading the push for legislation to address the threat of AI taking millions of jobs. Austin Democrat Greg Casar co-authored the AI Tax and Work Protection Act. It would place a tax on large AI companies. That tax rate would go up if the technology causes mass unemployment. The money raised would then be used to fund a jobs program to help those who lost their jobs find employment. Here's what Casar said about the motivation for the legislation.
The number one broad concern from voters with AI is this going to devastate my economic future or my kids' economic future? Data centers are a huge concern where they're being built, but overwhelmingly throughout the country, voters are hearing these CEOs whose companies only have these huge valuations because they're promising to put millions of Americans out of work. And so when voters say, what's your plan for dealing with a massive economic crisis that the biggest CEOs in America say they want to impose on us? Democrats don't have a policy plan for dealing with this, and we want to change that today. Here is the clear plan to make sure that if unemployment rises and AI starts replacing a large number of jobs, this tax rapidly increases to create a major jobs fund to make sure that Americans are still at work.
The proposed tax would not apply to some uses of AI. Casar said the bill does not tax what he called productive and positive uses of AI, like medical research. Some Texas Republicans are pushing legislation to give the federal government a larger role in how AI is developed. East Texas Congressman Nathaniel Moran is a co-author of a bipartisan bill dubbed the AI Kill Switch Act. The act would require companies to have the ability to shut down their models to prevent dangerous use of AI. Companies would also have to report if their AI attempts to circumvent controls to prevent things like malicious hacking or attempts to build nuclear or chemical weapons.
How do we protect our national security and our public safety aspects of the dangers that artificial intelligence poses without imposing a regulatory burden on the private sector to stifle AI innovation? We know one of our first objectives at the federal level is to make sure that we adhere to public safety measures and we push policies that secure our national defense.
Right now, reporting is voluntary. Moran said his bill would address potential threats to national security and public safety. Governor Greg Abbott issued an order amid growing public sentiment against data center growth in Texas. His directive calls for an audit of all proposed data centers before connecting any more to the state's energy grid. State Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager examined what this pause actually means and why some data center companies are on board.
When we talked to Railroad Commissioner Wayne Christian last week,
what are your thoughts on the stance that the governor is taking on data centers in the last couple of months?
Disappointed.
Christian supports data centers, and now he's changing his tune on the governor's approach.
I appreciate the governor bringing the decision-making process to this entire scenario.
This after a Monday afternoon directive from Texas Governor Greg Abbott to the Public Utilities Commission and Electric Reliability Council of Texas, requiring they audit all data centers seeking connection to the Texas grid. The audit will include information about how much a data center is getting tax breaks, is using electricity, is using water, and other impacts like noise and traffic, and also details about who owns the center. No data centers can be approved to join the ERCOT grid until all audits are complete.
The right thing for him to do is as expeditiously as possible. This should put together what I would call a Texas plan.
ERCOT was set to begin its study of large power users like data centers next month. But after Abbott's directive, ERCOT said it would miss a scheduled August milestone and seek an exception to existing timelines.
Show up with your own power. You're not pulling my power off the grid.
Former Texas Speaker of the House Dennis Bonnen says Abbott is handling this the right way, but also believes it's important to strike a balance for national security.
We are in a war over who will control data. Will it be China? Will it be Iran? Will it be the great United States of America and the state of Texas? And so that is also a big part of this debate.
For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
We also reached out to Gina Hinojosa, the Democrat who's running against Abbott in the November election. She said the governor's order doesn't go far enough, calling it a strongly worded letter and arguing Abbott could implement a full moratorium until lawmakers consider additional restrictions. A leadership change hits one of the state's most powerful offices.
It is the engine for the state of Texas. It's very complex.
Texas has a new controller, how the transition could affect taxpayers and the state's finances moving forward. Governor Abbott touts a plan to bring competition to city-owned utilities. Supporters say it could lower costs. Critics say that might not be the case. We break down the proposal. The state says it's fixing delays that affected crime victims seeking financial help. But is the system actually working better? What the numbers show now. Nearly 4 years after our investigators first uncovered a backlog of crime victims held up, waiting months, even years for state grant money meant to help rebuild their lives, officials are touting significant progress. But as investigator Matt Grant explains, problems persist.
Officials with the State Crime Victims Compensation Fund recently met with the Senate Finance Committee to give an update on reimbursement delays, acknowledging, quote, past poor performance and a dip now in payments to providers. According to officials with the Attorney General's office, which houses the Crime Victims Fund, victims are waiting on average 106 days to receive payment. That's down from 180 days 2 years ago, but up from 88 last October. Speaking to lawmakers, Crime Victim Services Division Chief Lane Brown said when he took over in 2024, the program was hampered by problems.
What I observed that impede us were poor processes, poor communication. I was shocked when I came in to find so many folks working in silos. And you don't need an MBA to know that communication is critical in a business.
Now we're learning, since we began investigating, there is more cross-training of staff, and the program has been restructured and turned, quote, on its head to improve efficiency. Brown says hiring and retention have improved, telling lawmakers they only lost 2 to 3 people in the past year, which were quickly filled compared to more than 20 in 2022. Brown expects the number of days for a victim to receive their first payment to drop closer to 90 in the fall. At the Capitol, Matt Grant, State of Texas.
The state fund reimburses victims of violent crimes for medical costs through grants and court fees as a last resort. Brown says the fund is paying out around $6 to $7 million a month. Our investigative team has been reporting for years on issues surrounding the fund. You can catch up on our coverage right now on our website. Just look for the links in this week's State of Texas story. Texas has a new controller, and he's pledging to prioritize one of Governor Abbott's biggest promises.
This will be the #1 issue I think the legislature is going to be dealing with because Texans are tired of renting their property from the government.
What the move could mean for the future of property tax relief in Texas. Governor Abbott touts a plan to bring competition to city-owned utilities. Supporters say it could lower costs. Critics say that might not be the case. We break down the proposal. Don Huffines started the summer as a candidate for Texas Comptroller. Now he's taken over the job after being appointed by Governor Greg Abbott. Last weekend, Huffines replaced acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock, who stepped down after losing the March Republican primary. Voters will decide whether Huffines stays in office after the November election. But for now, the newly appointed Comptroller says he's focused on helping the governor achieve his top policy priority, property tax relief. And he's already taking steps to change the office. Politics reporter Dylan McKim spoke one-on-one with Huffines to get insight into how his priorities could affect Texans.
I first want to ask you, you've been campaigning to doge the state of Texas. I'm curious to know, first work day in the Comptroller's office, what are your first priorities in the coming weeks?
Well, I appreciate you asking me that. And that's really what I want to do is deliver on my campaign promises initially. To do that, I have to get very familiar with everything this office does, this agency does. And what I'm learning is that it is the engine for the state of Texas. It's very complex, very complex. Of course, we collect all the money, manage the money, sign all the checks, and we want to make sure that process continues with as much efficiency as it can possibly get. I can deliver. So my goal immediately is to review all that and to make sure we're operating as efficiently as possible.
One of the more fascinating things that we've been tracking, of course, is the gubernatorial race. Governor Abbott has laid out a very interesting plan for property taxes, eliminating school property taxes for homesteads. That's going to need a big surplus there in the state budget to accomplish this. Are you going to be working with him at all to try to see if this is possible?
Of course I will be. Absolutely. I'll be working with the governor. He's committed to helping all the Texans to lower our property tax, and as is all the Republicans in office, the speaker and the lieutenant governor. Everyone's got a plan. This will be the number one issue I think the legislature is going to be dealing with because Texans are tired of renting their property from the government. We all are, and we don't even know what the rent's going to be. We just know it's going to go up every year. So everyone in Austin is focused on property tax relief and I think the state will have a surplus this year, and I'm working on getting that figured out for the legislature so they'll know how much money they have to work with. But we're all focused on it. And of course, I'll be communicating directly with the governor's team to see what we can do to get property tax relief.
We're approaching the first school year with the new Texas Education Freedom Accounts. I think a lot of the legwork has been done prior to you entering the office, but what are your thoughts on that program? What else needs to be completed as we roll out the first year of this?
Well, the program was rolled out very well. It really was. This is a really large undertaking. I mean, this is the largest rollout of a government school choice program in the history of the country, and it's been extremely successful, incredibly successful. We just announced that we funded 85,000 accounts, and that's going to go up. We feel like we still have over 100,000 children on the waiting list. 1/4 of those that have been funded were certified disabilities. 3/4 were under the poverty level, over 200% of the poverty level, which is about $65,000 annually for a family of 4. And so it's hitting the targets we wanted to. But what I want to see get done more in the future, and my focus is to really market the program heavy because I want every family in the government school system to know about the program. And they need to be fully informed about it, how important it is that their kid has an option. And because this is a program that's about doing what's best for the customer, what's doing best for the student and the parents. And not necessarily what's best for the school district, but for the customer. It's a free market approach. And that's what I'm excited about it. I always have been a champion of school choice because you see, I am, and our whole Republican ticket, we're committed to ensuring that that the government school system's the best it can possibly be. And we think competition is going to achieve that.
Is there any one thing you're most excited to get your hands on now?
Well, that's a great question, Dylan. I'm excited about everything this agency does. Uh, it's really impressive. We got a lot of great workers over here. They've got their head down and they're working hard. And I'm excited to make a difference in all the different divisions we have, whether it's collecting the money or managing the money. But I'm really excited to focus on the education aspects of the agency, the grants that we're giving out. Are they giving out? Are we getting, proper transparency on that? But more than anything, I'm totally focused on rooting out waste and inefficiencies across all levels of government. I'm going to utilize this agency like it's never been utilized before. This has been a little sleepy agency, and we're going to wake it up a little bit. I'm taking the position that I can, where whoever's spending government money, Texas taxpayer money, I have a right as the chief financial officer of the state of Texas to investigate that. Is it being spent correctly? Is it being spent properly? We've got a huge program I'm going to be rolling out to uncover waste and fraud across all levels of government. Local, county, city, school districts, special districts, hospital districts, you name it. We're going to be investigating. There'll be no safe haven for any government from the Comptroller's office.
As we mentioned, voters will decide in November who will hold the office of Controller for the next 4 years. State Senator Sarah Eckhart is the Democrat challenging Huffines. She said voters should pay attention to how he runs the office.
You know, throwing a person of such little qualifications for this job into this job right before a legislative session, yeah, the people of Texas will get to see firsthand how ill-equipped he is. We've already seen high-level staffers leave the office, and it's no wonder, because this is the guy who says he wants to Doge Texas, which actually perhaps is a mispronunciation for Dodge taxes. The whole point of the office is to fairly administer our tax regime, bring in revenues of the state under the law with fairness and equitably, and he has very clearly said he has no intention of doing that.
Election Day is less than 3 months away. A poll released this week shows Huffines with an edge in the race. The Barbara Jordan Public Policy Research and Survey Center at Texas Southern University surveyed 1,200 likely voters. The results show Huffines leading Eckhart by 7 percentage points. 13% of voters remain undecided. Libertarian Alonzo Echevarria Garza received 2% support in the poll. The margin of error is plus or minus 2.83%. A fight over who should provide electricity in some of the state's largest cities may be headed to the Capitol. We explore the governor's plan to bring competition to city-owned utilities and why critics warn it could raise costs. Governor Abbott wants to break what he calls a monopoly over electricity in some of the state's largest cities. On Tuesday, the governor announced plans for new legislation allowing retail power providers into cities like Austin, which have city-owned energy suppliers. The governor said that deregulating the electric market would mean lower bills, but city utilities say that's not the case. Eric Henriksen reports on the governor's plan and the potential ripple effect.
There are more than 5 million Texans who are served by municipal-owned utilities that operate as monopolies.
Part of a new push for affordability.
They lock Texans into whatever rate they decide.
The governor's plan allowing retail utility providers into cities like Austin and San Antonio.
Right now, cities are allowed to have monopolies on providing electricity. It would eliminate the city monopoly that currently exist.
According to the governor, by opening up these cities to competition, customers in Austin could save up to 10% on their utility bill, while customers in San Antonio could save up to 13%. However, city leaders say Austin already pays the lowest rates in the state. Matt Mitchell with Austin Energy told KXAN that
Forcing Austin Energy to deregulate would sharply increase costs for customers and deeply impact the benefits we provide to the community we serve.
They have to be competitive, and they can still exist. They can still be a competitor in the marketplace.
Another hurdle, a significant amount of Austin Energy's revenue is channeled back into the city's budget. San Antonio's provider does the same.
Some money that was used in that fund was used for Zumba classes. Listen, I'm not diminishing Zumba classes, but I'm just saying that's not what you're paying your electricity bill for.
Austin Mayor Kirk Watson told us that
fundamentally, changing our utility through deregulation would have broad and significant consequences to those we serve. It would be a technically challenging multi-year process and cost over $1 billion that would be paid by customers.
In Austin, Eric Hendrickson, State of Texas.
Electric bills vary in different parts of Texas. The site electricrates.org compares average costs by Texas region. Its site shows the average Texas household pays $177 per month for electricity. The site shows people in San Antonio pay slightly less, roughly $165 per month. That's less than the average of around $170 in Dallas, which has market competition. The average in Austin is slightly higher at around $175 per month, and the site shows it's around $180 in Houston. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.